Hello everyone. This is a quick video demonstration of ManageEngine's PAM360 solution. So the core capabilities of this solution can be broken into 6 major modules. So we have account governance, privilege elevation and delegation management, session management, user behavior analytics, key and SSL certificate management, and finally we also have smart workflow automation. So we'll look at all of these modules and the core capabilities that are available in the product. So what you're looking at right now is the login page of our PAM solution, and I'm just logging into it. There are two major areas inside the product. There's this user management area. This is where you will onboard all of your users who would like to use this solution on a day-to-day basis. And to onboard users, we have integration with all the leading directory services like Active Directory, Microsoft Entra ID, or any LDAP compliant directory service like eDirectory can be used. Or you can also go for SAML based single sign-on option where you can integrate PAM with your own SAML based ID provider such as Ping, Federate or Okta or any other SAML compliant system. We also support Radius or PKI based authentication if you prefer to use that. And you can also enforce multi-factor authentication by picking any of the options available here so that the users will be challenged twice before they can access the PAM solution. Now once you onboard the users, say from Active Directory or Entra ID, you will also have the option to set up a synchronization interval. Now with this sync interval enabled, you can automate the user addition process. Say for example, if you have a new member joining your team tomorrow, all you have to do is add them into the right Active Directory groups or OUs, and PAM will automatically onboard that user into the system. So this is a very helpful feature in terms of user addition and access delegation process. You can have multiple groups onboarded. You can also have multiple OUs onboarded with varying sync interval times. Now once the users are onboarded, you can assign them with one of the roles that comes bundled with the product. So there are 6 roles that comes bundled with the product. 3 of them are administrative roles, meaning these roles will allow the user to register a device, configure a device or delegate it to other users. The last 2 roles, password users and auditors, are going to be mainly for consumption. Now these users will log into PAM solution either to check out some secrets or gain privilege access to a system. In general, they will be using the PAM solution for consumption. Now if you are not satisfied with these 6 built-in roles, and if you would like to create your own roles, we also have a custom roles feature. So under the admin tab, we have this role section where you can create your own custom role. You can select the base role, for example, and then remove specific functionalities for this role from various areas of the PAM solution. So this is very customizable and it will come in handy if you would like to control every area of PAM and whether you would like a user to be able to use it or deny them access to that area. Once you have the role created, you will be able to modify any of the user and change their user role with the custom role that you have created. So that being said, the next major area we have in our PAM solution is the resources tab. Now we use this term resources to denote any kind of an endpoint. It could be a Windows server or a Linux server or a network device like a switch, router or a firewall or a database or even a cloud application. Anything that can contain a username and password, we call it as a resource. So resource is more like a container inside which you can have multiple usernames and passwords. Say for example, this is one of my Linux machines, and when I click on it, you can see that there are 2 local accounts present in that Linux machine. So as an administrator, you can onboard all of these resources using various methods. We have the manual addition method where you can supply the device details, select the type of device it is, and then also upload the credentials. Or you could use the discovery option. All the Windows machines can be onboarded directly from Active Directory. You can just supply the domain details and a login credential. And again, in this area, you can again set up a sync interval to make sure any new device added into your Active Directory will be automatically onboarded into PAM. Now the interesting part with the discovery feature of PAM is that it will onboard the device along with all the local accounts found in that device. So if you have some servers where there are too many local accounts and you're not sure how many privilege accounts are there in your infrastructure, this discovery option will come in handy. And it will also discover service accounts that are found in your infrastructure. Say you have a domain account that is used for running different services on different areas of your Windows infrastructure, then when you onboard the devices from domain, the PAM solution will discover those service accounts. So a quick way to identify service account is to see this icon in front of the account name. Now if you click on the icon, it will actually tell you in which machines, in which service that particular service account is being used. So with this information, you can actually clean up your service accounts if you're not sure where they are or what is the purpose of a service account in your Active Directory. Our discovery functionality will be of a lot of help. Now, once the solution discovers all the local accounts, you would be able to take control of it by rotating the secret or doing a cleanup by deleting those accounts from the target machines and so on. Similar to Windows, we also have Linux discovery. Now you can provide an IP range to do a network scan, and PAM solution will basically grab all the Linux machines that are falling within that IP range. And to do that, you can add profiles and store your Linux login credential. Some of you might be using an SSH private key. In that case, you can also supply the username and upload the private key. You can have multiple profiles here, and PAM will basically use all the profiles to check each and every IP to see if it's a Linux machine and automatically discover them along with their local accounts. So you will find the Linux machines listed here along with all the local accounts found on them. And similarly, we also have discovery option for network devices. Now this works based on SNMP protocol. So you need to add a profile with your SNMP read or write community values. And similar to Linux, you can supply the IP range, and PAM will do a SNMP scan and identify all of your network devices like switches, routers, firewalls, and so on. And we also have VMware based discovery, where if you have a VMware environment, you would be able to discover all of the ESXi hosts and guests automatically. And also from AWS, in case if you're using AWS environment, you will be able to automatically grab machines directly from AWS directory. In addition to all of this, let's say you already have a simple password safe, or you have all of your secrets stored in a spreadsheet. Then we also have the option for you to bulk import those data using a CSV file or an Excel sheet. So all that data you can populate in an Excel sheet, and you can browse, select the file, and it will allow you to choose the columns in which you have the details stored. So these are the different ways in which you can onboard your devices and secrets into the PAM's vault. Now, the solution is designed based on ownership concept. Now, what that means is, if I am an administrator and if I add, let's say, 99 resources, no one else will be able to see any of these information by default. Even if one of my colleagues who is an administrator in PAM logs into the solution, they will not be able to see any of these 99 resources, because I am the owner of these data, because I logged into PAM solution and I added it. Now, what if I want somebody else to see any of this data? Now, I can always select any one device and delegate it to another user or to a user group, or I can collect my devices together by going to this groups tab. We have the option for you to create a static group where you can pick different machines and collect them, or you could use our dynamic group option where, say for example, I want to collect all my root account passwords together. So I'll create a group called root passwords, and I will provide a criteria that matches my requirement. In this case, I want the resource type to be Linux. I don't want to filter any Windows or other type of devices, and then I want the account name to be root. I don't want any other accounts to be filtered, and there you go. So it has found all my Linux machines, and all the root accounts are collected together as a group. Now I can save this group, and then I can share this group with one of my colleagues. So for example, I'll search for the root passwords group, and then I can share it to a user group. Now the interesting part is this user group can be your Active Directory group. So we talked about how you can onboard user groups from Active Directory with a sync option earlier. So when you share, you will obviously see all of your Active Directory groups. So it makes things easier for you to share bulk information to a group of people with much more convenience. Now when you share, there are various permission levels you can supply. So if you just want those users to see your passwords, you can give them view permission. Or if you want them to be able to change the password, to be able to update the password inside the vault or trigger a remote password reset and change it in the target system, you can provide modify permission. Or you have a colleague who is also an administrator and you would like them to administer these devices when you are not available, or let's say you're on a vacation, then you can share this group with full access to your colleague. So in this case, both of you will be like owner for this group of devices. So both of you will be able to administer this group of devices. So these are basic sharing permissions that you can make use of to delegate this device to another user. Now, before we talk about other elevation and delegation capabilities, I will also touch upon the password reset capability of our PAM solution. So obviously you have all of your devices onboarded, and the next step is for you to be able to change the passwords of the accounts discovered. Say for example, I want to change the root password of my test machine. I can just go to the account actions and click on change password button. The system can generate a random password based on the password policies you have defined, or you can also supply your own password by hand. And when you click save, the PAM solution is going to connect to that Linux machine and reset the password of the root account at the device side. And also the new password will be updated in this vault, so you can keep track of it, and all the users who have access to the system will have access to the latest password of this account. Now if you uncheck this box that says apply password changes to the remote resource, that means this new password will be updated only inside our vault. PAM will not try to connect to that target machine and update the password in the device side. So this option will come in handy if you have already updated the password in a device and you're just locally updating the information inside our safe. And for every account, we also have a password history section. So all the old passwords are maintained in this area. We do not delete any of the history of the passwords or the old passwords. So you will always have the records of it along with the auditing information. Say if you want to reset this root account passwords but in bulk or on a schedule basis, then you can go back to the groups tab. We already created a group called root passwords. So let's go to that group, and you will find this actions button and then a perform password reset button. And again, you will have a choice to either generate a random password for every account, or in rare cases, if you would like to set the same password for multiple devices and accounts, you can use the second option. But you will also select the users to whom you would like a notification to be sent. All the users probably already have their email IDs in Active Directory that has been imported, and so you can just select the users, or you can specify the email address to which you want the notifications to be sent. Now if you want this job to be done on a schedule basis, then you can go to the same actions button and then select perform or periodic password reset. So it will allow you to set up a notification before the job and the password type to be used and the time frame. So you can say run this job every 2 days starting from tomorrow. So the PAM solution will keep rotating all the root passwords every 2 days, and you will get a summary report before and after the job is completed. You can also set up a retry in case some of your devices periodically go out of network and come back. Say for example, I will set up a retry of 4 additional attempts with a 5-hour window between each attempt. So for the next 20 hours, PAM will keep trying to hit that particular Linux machine and update the root password, and it will give up only after a total of 5 attempts. So the initial schedule and 4 more attempts to try to grab that machine and rotate the root password. So that is how you set up a schedule to reset the password of a collection of accounts. So I talked about how PAM can rotate passwords of various endpoints, but how does it do it? Like, how does it get the permission to do it? To show that, you can select all of the devices and then go to configure remote password reset section. Now this is the area where you can specify what type of a credential that PAM should use to authenticate into your endpoints. So for example, for Windows and Windows domain controllers, I can just select my domain account with administrative privileges. Now it doesn't have to be a full-on domain admin. It just needs password reset permission in Active Directory and local admin rights in the target servers where you want the passwords to be rotated. For Linux machines, you can supply the login sequence. You can say like login as guest and then su as root user, and then PAM will be able to rotate the password. For network devices, you can supply the entire login sequence. Maybe there is an enable password. You can select en account with its correct password. Maybe there is a user mode. From there you have to switch to the enable mode, or in some cases you will directly log into the enable mode. In that case, there is no enable password required. So whatever the login format is, just try to log into your device once and you will know how, after you supply the username and password, what prompt you are able to see in your device, and you can just configure this accordingly. Again, for databases, you can supply whether to use the local authentication or use Windows authentication, and pretty much all the device types you will find the respective credential method being prompted, so you can supply the data. PAM can also reset passwords of cloud accounts such as AWS IAM, Google Apps, Entra ID, Rackspace, or even Salesforce. But in each of those instances, you would have to supply the respective authentication parameters like client ID and client secret. So earlier we talked about how you can take a particular resource or a group of resources and then share it to a group of users. And we also saw the basic sharing permissions, right? So there was a view permission, there was a modify permission, and also a full access permission when you share devices between other administrators of PAM. Now, what if you want something else? What if view permission is not what you're looking for? What if you want to have the view permission on a controlled time frame? Then we have this access control feature, which is also an account specific feature. Say for example, the guest account can be shared with view permission to another user, but then this admin account, after it is shared, you can lock it using this access control feature. Now this feature brings in request approve workflow. What that means is the end user will not be able to see the admin secret at all times. When they log in, they will only have an option to request access, and then one of these administrators have to approve the request for them to be able to check out the password. So I'll log out and log in as an end user so you can see how this functionality works in real time. So now I'm logging in as guest. Now this guest user is just an end user in PAM. As you can see that for some of the devices, the user only has a request button, whereas for other devices, they have the option to either see the password. Now, if I click on the request button, I can supply the reason as to why I need access to this password, and I can also choose the time of how long I need access. Maybe I need access tomorrow from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. or whatever the time frame is. I can just select that time and then click on the send button. The approving authorities will receive an email as soon as I put this request. If they already have PAM open, they also have the option to basically see and get a notification at the top. So I'm going to log back in as an admin to showcase that. So at the top you will see this notification. If the PAM is open, you will also have this notification bell ringing. You can enable or disable that notification option. So you will be able to see this password request. It says guest is asking for the admin account access for the Windows 1 machine. So as an admin, you can also see the reason as to why they need access, and you can process the request saying like, okay, this is approved because this is for a ticket, or whatever the reason is, you can supply it. You can also change the time frame. Although the individual has asked for 1 hour access, if you feel like this job can be done in like 30 minutes, you can reduce the time frame and then click on the approve button. So the user will then be able to check out the password exactly at 3:40, and their access will end at 4:10. And what that means is by 4:10, PAM will put the request button back in place for that user and also reset this admin password in the target device. So whatever password this user saw for that 30 minutes, will no longer be valid because PAM will forcefully change that password in the target machine and update the new password in the vaulting area. So that is how the request approve workflow functionality works. And like I said, this is on top of the basic sharing where you have given them view permission, but after giving view permission, you can lock some of these accounts by having the access control feature. Now let's say, even in this case, if you give the admin access for that 30 minutes, the user will be a full-on admin, right? So they will be able to create a new account if they want, or they would be able to uninstall a software if they want in that 30 minutes. So if you don't want that, you want to have a final control of what the user can do, then we have our privileged session management module where we can allow users to launch remote connections without revealing the actual passwords in plain text. So after sharing the password with view permission and after configuring the access control, you could also go to the general settings area of PAM and disable the ability for the end users to see the passwords. What that means is if PAM can launch a remote connection to the system, then the end users can't see the password. Instead, they can go to the connections tab, look for a machine, say for example, I'll just look for PAM, and then if I click on the connect button, it will open an RDP session and log me into that target machine. So there you go. I don't have to run any application. I didn't have to manually supply the credentials. All I did was just click on connect button and now I am logged into that machine. Similarly, for Linux machines also, if you search for a particular Linux machine, you can launch a remote connection, or you can allow other users to launch a remote connection without the knowledge of the password. So this user can click on SSH and they will be logged into that Linux machine where they can run commands and do whatever activities they would like to perform. So this is a much better because in this case the users don't know the old password. So without the old password, they won't be able to change that particular account password. Also, if they do create a new account or do something they are not authorized to do, you have a full recording of it because all the RDP sessions and SSH sessions launched via our PAM solution are fully recorded under the auditing area. So you can always go there, click on the play button and find out what was done during a remote session. So this is a remote session I opened a few seconds earlier. I didn't do much. I just had the Active Directory window open and then I pretty much closed it. But yeah, so the point is, it's for highly critical devices where you don't want to delegate the actual secret to the users. You want it to be masked, but you want the users to still gain privilege access when they are in need of it. Now let's say this is not sufficient. You have a DBA and what you want is for the DBA to be a DBA only when they need it. Then we have a feature called just-in-time elevation. Now what this feature does is it basically allows you to take a low privileged account and automatically elevate it into a higher privileged group. Now this can be a local group of that machine or an Active Directory group. But the point is, let's say you have a local group called DBA admins. Now by default, the guest user is not part of the DBA admin. Now this guest account is shared with all the DBAs. Now tomorrow morning, the DBA will log into PAM. They will have a request button next to the guest account. They will click on it and you will approve it. When you approve it, this guest account will be elevated. It will be automatically added into the DBA admin group of that local machine. And after the time frame expires, PAM will remember to remove this guest user out of that DBA admin group, so they are no longer a DBA admin in that machine. So that is how our just-in-time privilege elevation works. You can temporarily promote some accounts and demote them automatically based on your approval workflows. Now, let's say you don't want to do that either, because even though they got temporary DBA admin access, they logged into their machine. Again, they can do anything they want, like they can install a software or uninstall a software, but you don't want that because they are DBAs. What you want them is to use Microsoft SQL Studio application as a DBA admin and nothing else. Like you don't want them to be able to modify anything in that operating system except for using SQL Studio. Now, how do you do that? We have a feature called self-service privilege elevation. Now this feature is an agent based functionality. Like everything we saw so far, it's all agentless. You just have to deploy the PAM solution and onboard the devices and you're all set. But for just this self-service elevation feature, you have to go to our admin tab, download our Windows agent and deploy it in that particular database server. Now once you do that, you can come to the resources tab. You will find that Windows resource. You can actually configure the self-service privilege elevation section. Here you can select the domain account with which you want the elevation to happen. So for the database example, you will select the DBA account. You can also supply the app you would like to permit. So in this case, if you want SQL Studio, you can go to the admin tab. Under privilege elevation, you have this allowed apps script section. Now this is where you will add SQL Studio. SQL Studio's actual application is called smss.exe. Once you deploy the agent, PAM will also be able to retrieve the SHA-256 checksum value, like it can authenticate it. So simply store that value, save it, and then you can configure this SQL Studio for self-service elevation only for the database administrators. So to put it simple, the user will log into PAM. They will see the connect button. When they click on connect button, they will log into that the Windows machine. But in that Windows machine, all they can do is run SQL Studio as a privileged user, because everything else is just a non-privileged user. So they cannot delete anything, they cannot uninstall anything. But when they right click SQL Studio, they would basically get an option called run as PAM360's privileged account. And when they select that, PAM will take care of running SQL Studio with the DBA admin account, whereas the user does not get full-on local admin rights in the target machine. So this is our self-service elevation feature. And both these features are also available for Linux platform as command control feature and command elevation features. So if you go to this manage commands, we already have a wide range of commands that are typically used in Linux environment, and they are also collected as various command groups. You could also add your own commands and create your own custom command groups if you prefer. But the idea is, for any Linux machine, you can configure the command control feature and say the users can only run basic administration commands, or they can run only the file system administration commands and nothing else. So once you associate, and when the end users do launch an SSH session, they will only be able to use the configured commands and nothing else. They won't have the option to type any new command except to use the list of commands you have already configured. And that is command control. But if you want command elevation, you can configure that as well. For command elevation, you can again go to this self-service elevation section and you can say any commands that are part of file system or searching, you can basically run it with the root elevation. So as an admin, you can configure it and update it. So when the end user logs in, only for those commands, they will have an option to run it as root user. All other commands, they can only run as a non-root user, but the ones that you have configured, they will be able to run as root. So that is our self-service privilege elevation capability. So to recap, we have basic sharing permission that works like a switch, and in that we have view permission, modify permission, full access, or app only permission. And on top of that, you can configure access control if you want to restrict the time on how long somebody can access a particular secret. You can bring in this request approve workflow. So the user asks for request, you approve it, and they get access only within that time window. And then we saw the just-in-time elevation feature where PAM can temporarily promote an account to be a local admin or a domain admin and then automatically demote that account out of that group. And then we saw self-service elevation where you can control specific apps and say only those apps can be executed as an administrative account or administrative or a privileged account. And for Linux, only specific commands will be authorized to be executed with an elevated user permission. So with that, we are done with the privilege elevation and delegation management module, and we also touched a little upon connections tab. We saw the PSM module, how PAM can launch remote sessions and how all the sessions are recorded. By the way, in the recording area, we also have active privilege session. So let's say you have a third-party consultant or a contractor and you have delegated access for just a single machine to that user and they are working on the system. You will be able to join their session and see what they are doing without any notification being sent to that user. So you can shadow their session in real time and terminate their session in case if you find them doing something they are not authorized to do. So in addition to these core capabilities, PAM can also rotate SSH keys. So if you go to the keys tab, you will be able to discover SSH keys from your infrastructure and PAM will be able to rotate the key. It can generate a public private key pair, automatically push the keys to the target machine. So it is just like password reset. The only difference is in this case it's going to generate a key pair and push the key to the target machines. You can also generate new keys and associate it with the respective Linux machines and the respective accounts. And PAM can also manage TLS certificates. So if you go to the certificates tab, you will be able to discover all of your internally used certificates by supplying an IP range. It can even be an external website. PAM will be able to discover the certificate for you, tell you when they are expiring, how many days are left, if there are any weakness in any of your existing certificate like vulnerabilities. You could also create and sign new certificates. So just go to the CSR section, fill out the form, and PAM will basically create a CSR. You don't need any third-party tools like OpenSSL or KeyTool. And right from this console, like typically you will copy the certificate request, go to your CA and sign it. Whereas with PAM, you can just click on sign, supply your CA server details, and PAM will automatically sign this CSR file into a CER file and drop it under the certificates tab. Now you can also sign certificate using third-party CAs like GoDaddy, DigiCert, GlobalSign, etc. You just need to supply your GoDaddy API credentials. Once you store that, you will be able to directly order certificates, renew certificates, or revoke certificates from GoDaddy without having to leave the PAM console. So we basically manage the end-to-end lifecycle of certificates. So you can also grab a certificate, deploy it to a target machine or to a group of machines. It could be Windows or Linux, or maybe you have an IIS web server running with a certificate. You can renew it by just generating a new one and deploying it into the target machine. So these are the core capabilities of PAM, and finally we have what we call as smart workflow automation. That is where you could use PAM to be tightly integrated with various other areas of your IT infrastructure. Now starting with DevSecOps. So you might have some CI/CD platforms like Ansible, Chef, Puppet, or Jenkins. PAM will help you in eliminating hard-coded secrets from all of these areas. Basically, we have a plugin that you can deploy, and the plugin will securely retrieve the secrets and then delegate it to your CI/CD pipeline. So you no longer have to hard-code secrets in your CI/CDs, or you might be using RPA solutions like Automation Anywhere or Cortex. We have a dedicated bot again, which will retrieve the secret securely and deliver it to other bots that are performing complex operations within your infrastructure. We also have integration with vulnerability scanners like Rapid7, Insight VM, or Nessus. The idea is to deliver secrets to your scanners so they don't fail just because a password was rotated or a secret has been changed using our Vault solution. And then we also have integration with ITSM solutions like Service Desk Plus, Service Desk Plus Cloud, or ServiceNav, or Jira, or any IT service management solution with an API capability. So this is for moving your request approved workflow into your own ITSM solution. So you don't have to log in into both the applications to do request and approval. So for example, if you're using ServiceNow, you can raise a change request and get it approved, and that approval will reflect inside PAM. So when you try to connect to a machine or try to retrieve a secret, PAM will prompt you for the ticket number, and that way all the approvals and all the settings you have done in your ITSM will all stay intact within PAM solution. And we also have integration with SIM solutions like Splunk, ArcSight, Sumo Logic, and all of them. So all the raw audits of PAM will basically be forwarded to your own SIM solution, so you can further process it, or have multiple copies of the audit for resilience purposes. We also have an analytics module where PAM can basically do anomaly detection. You need to install our Analytics Plus module for this capability, But the idea is we have a deep learning engine that crunches all the raw audits of the PAM solution, and it will identify anomalies. Say, for example, a Linux administrator is logging into a firewall, which they generally do not do. Or your business hours is 9 a.m. to 5 p.m., but you find somebody logging into PAM and checking out a secret on a Saturday night. Right, so these are some of the scenarios where PAM will trigger an anomaly because it has all the raw audits. So you can configure the sensitivity of the anomaly detection. So maybe on day one it doesn't have enough audits, so you can have the risk score to be 99.99. But the longer you use PAM, the better it gets at, and eventually you will bring it down to like 50% or 40%. So anything suspicious, even riskier, for about 40%, PAM will send a notification, and you will be able to check it out and see if it is a false positive or remediate the problem. And then we also have an integration with the ManageEngine's own Logs360 solution, which is a UEBA solution. Now this is for identifying threats based on event correlation. Say, for example, you're looking at a secret, right? You are allowed to look at the secret and you are looking at it. But somebody walking behind your shoulder looked at that same secret and just kept walking on, and you didn't notice. Now, as far as PAM is concerned, nothing bad happened because you're the right user to whom the secret is shared and you saw it. So that user decides to use that secret the next day and try to gain access to that Linux machine. Now, normally PAM cannot detect it because as far as PAM is concerned, nothing bad happened. But if you integrate PAM with our Logs360 solution, which is a UEBA solution, and the job of the UEBA solution is to basically gather logs from all of your endpoints. The Logs360 will share this insight with PAM and say, this user logged into this Linux machine with this credential. PAM will check and realize that's not supposed to happen because this user is not part of PAM. The secret is not shared with PAM, so technically they aren't supposed to be in that machine at all. So you will still identify that something suspicious is going on even when two different operations happen on two different sections of your infrastructure, and that is the advanced event correlation feature. And then we also have dashboard where you can see the password activity, user activity, keys activities. We also have a dedicated security hardening dashboard that will tell you the posture of your PAM deployment, like whether it's installed in the right directory, whether the master encryption key is securely stored, and all that data. This will also help you in deploying the solution, also hardening it to make sure that it's in a highly protected environment. So there are other features like deployment architecture, like there's a database backup feature that runs every day to take a backup of your entire database as an encrypted snapshot. There's high availability, so you can deploy PAM on two different boxes and run it on a highly available model. There's also an application scaling capability if you want to extend the app and have it deployed on a distributed architecture. Say, for example, you have 5 offices, you can install PAM on all 5 locations and configure this application scaling design. So all the 5 apps will basically be pointed to a single backend, and because of that they will all look alike, they will all work alike, but they are available for users on all 5 offices. They can manage devices on all 5 locations. In addition to that, we also have a break glass feature. Say if there is a bigger disaster, there's a power outage, all of your PAM services are down, your database is down, you can still do a break glass. PAM has the option to periodically export all of your secrets as an encrypted HTML file. Now this file can be automatically pushed to one of your cloud storage like S3 buckets or Dropbox or Box or OneDrive. But the point is, even if all the PAM apps are down, the databases are down, you can still go to your cloud storage area and unlock this HTML file in order to get to your secrets. So those are the core capabilities of our PAM solution. I hope this video was informative. If you would like, we'll be more than happy to even do a personalized demo for you and your team. We'll leave the description in the link below. Just click on it and just submit your details, and we'll be more than happy to set up a more personalized demo for you. Thanks for watching.